Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Just into race clear. He's got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off. Jamie Vardy! Pull back here for Darwin. Oh, he scored! An absolute belter! That is trademark Abdul Fatahwood.
This one into the box. Nugent over the top. Oh, what a goal! David Nugent's just scored a beauty. He's made Forest look like fools.
Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night Tactics here on Blue Tinted Glasses. This is the show where we go behind the scenes to work out why we are or aren't winning matches. And luckily, this time around, we've got a win, hallelujah, to talk about, which is all good stuff. But tonight, I'm very fortunate to be joined by the Sydney Sweeney to my Taylor Swift. It is Lux. Good evening, Lux. How are we?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to, as you said at the start, good to be here talking about a positive result and performance rather than a negative one, which we've had so often this season.
Yeah, well, I'll ask you about the match. I mean, I actually thought this could be quite a big turning point. As you know, I was not the most optimistic on Marty, but this one was quite interesting. What are your thoughts immediately after the match? Obviously, you did Good Morning Foxes with the crew. What were your reactions to the game?
It feels good, mate. Yeah, it feels good. I think, we're all in agreement. Pretty much everybody is in agreement that first half in particular was a breath of fresh air. The way we approached the game, the intensity, all of the stuff that we'll talk about tonight. But I mean, you know me, right? I've been defending Marty. I've been backing Marty from the beginning. So I'm glad that he was able to kind of show why it is somewhat justified. So as we've all been saying for the last few days, we just need to kind of see that continue. And we don't have to wait long enough. Literally 24 hours from now, we'll be going live for the watch along against Bristol City.
Thick and fast. So that's why I thought I'd sneak this one in, because I think there was quite a lot to talk about in this game, and I found it quite interesting as a result. So we obviously haven't done the tactics show for a while, and that's because unfortunately since then and now, there are a few clangers in the works. Of course, it started off with this one, pretty horrific. I think maybe 2 weeks ago, this was at Southampton. We lost 3-0. And then just to make our lives even better, we followed that up by being 3-0 down again at half time, got 2 goals back. And so after those 2 games, I'll be honest with you, Locks, my phone started ringing. Do you know who it was?
Go
League
on.
One. It was League One on the phone. But
I thought it was going to be Rodkin offering you a job as manager, mate. That's what I thought.
I don't know if I'd say yes to Rodkin. That could be pretty dangerous. But no, League One, cancel, decline, hold it. We're not there yet. But Marty, obviously, he was under pressure. And of course, we've got this infamous shot of us, which is going to go down in meme glory. Marty is underperforming. And, as I said to you, the reason why I was pretty upset with Marty, I'll just go through this quickly again, with Southampton when we played them. This was literally the last game before we played Southampton. You saw they walloped Charlton 5-1. Their XG was insane, 4.63. Right, but you can see their shape is they basically sat in the mid block and counter-attacked. And here's a very quick example. You can see of one of the Southampton goals. Charlton are doing this high line, man-for-man press. It completely backfires on them, and they end up in this situation where there's a 4-on-4, and they score. And they scored many goals like this. So we came into this game, and I was hoping that Marty would counter-attack for that game. But instead, what did he do? He played the high line, right, as made famous here by the infamous AC Milan team with Arrigo Sacchi there. So this was against Southampton. Now, I just thought we'd explain, why did we even bother with the high line, right? Because just look how insane this is. Look at Yannick Vestergaard's position here, right? He's in line with Harry Winks, phases the last man back. And in this particular game, we had Badia Luko and Hamza as the fullbacks. And they've inverted in here as well. So you couldn't really be any more aggressive than this, right, in terms of trying to win a football match. And in this particular instance, gets played to Mavadid. You even see a Luko makes the run to give, the 2 fullbacks something to think about. He puts in a cross. Watch JJ, who's obviously been our player of the season. Fantastic header from him. And you have to say that was a top quality save from Bazunu, who's not really too known for making good saves, right? So you can see the sort of good aspect of the high line. It means that you've got lots of men forward, you can make lots of chances, you can potentially score. But the problem is that what's the downsides of the high line? Well, we know what it is, right? The high line weakness. Here you go. Similar situation. Can see the team up here. It has gone in, I think, to this is Patson Daka playing up front. He loses the ball. The ball gets turned over. And here you can see Yannick's gone in to the defender to push up to try and win the ball very quickly. Part of the high line is the high press. But a quick first-time ball goes over the top. And this is not what you want to see when you're 1-0 down away from home. One-on-one, Wout phases the defender. And then, there comes back to his chances. You can see in this picture, right, you don't even see Vestergaard at all. Actually, look how much pace Badialuko makes up, right? So even though he got sent off in this match, if we did want to play a high line, spoilers, probably bringing Naluko back into the team would be the way to go. But anyway, ends up being 2-0 to Saints. And it just shows you just sort of how high risk, high reward maybe. We haven't seen too many rewards from the high line this season, right? So there you go. So that was that particular game. So coming back to this game, I'll be honest with you, because I think Marty is quite lucky to have made it to this game. And I think when we did the watch along, I predicted 2-1 to Derby, right? But what you have to say is that he changed the tactics, and this is the XG, but this is a bit misleading, as I'll show you the first and second half later. But in the end, 3 big chances, we scored every single one of our goals, and we went in half time 3-0 up. So to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter that Derby got much pressure. A lot of people will be saying it's a 45-minute performance, but just before we get into the nitty gritty, I'll show you the momentum here. What were your thoughts of the match? Obviously, you guys probably would have spoken about the second half and the 90 minutes performance, but you got to be. We were laughing out loud with that first half. Couldn't believe what we were seeing.
Happy Clapper Locks is about to arrive. Everybody, hold your seats, hold your hats. It's annoyed me, Neil. It's annoyed me this week, man. I see in the comments online, some of you in the chat will say it as well. Where was it? I can't remember. Anyway, the people shitting on the game, shitting on the performance because the second half wasn't as free-flowing as the first. And for me, that is basic analysis. That is surface-level analysis, because, I'm going to do a Graham Brock here. I'm going to use a Graham Brock line, which I never like doing. But there's more than one team on the pitch, right? There are 2 teams who are playing, right? So it's not as easy as doing exactly what you did in the first half, again in the second half. Couple things. First of all, we were 3-0 up. Okay, should have been 4, right? Rightly or wrongly, because we do accuse the players of being complacent. The game was won at half time. Secondly, Derby had nothing to lose. We had everything to lose. Of course, that plays a part in what the team does in the second half. Look at Leicester versus Sheffield United a few days earlier. Second half, Leicester with nothing to lose. They completely switch up and they're on top. And we could have got a point from the game, right? So this is going to sound crazy, but for me, at half time, the aim of the second half is to not concede 3-0. Because if you concede 3, you've lost the 3 points. We conceded 1. Yes, it wasn't as exciting as the first half, but we got the job done. We saw it out. That's it for me. That's why it annoys me. Because Anil, some people excuse. So people didn't want to talk about the second half performance against Sheffield United because it didn't matter, right? But then they do want to talk about the second half against Derby because it does matter. Do you know what I'm trying to say here, Anil? I think it's just a little bit. Yeah, look, as somebody says, game of 2 halves. We got the job done. Who cares?
I think you're going to like this analysis tonight then, because I actually agree with you. It is funny. I'm noticing that you're turning into Graham Brock and I'm turning into Imran. So clearly some bad influences in the BTG lot, but there you go. But I would agree. Look, I always say, whether you agree with it or not, there are certain things that I said this, for example, in one of Steve Cooper's games where we played Crystal Palace and in the end we drew the game 2-2. And what he did is he put on Connor Cody, went to a back 5 and Cody gave away the most bozo penalty you've ever seen. Yeah. But to be fair to Cooper in that game, the statistical play is to load up the box and see it out, because more often than not you will and you'll get the points. And similar here, I mean, you saw Sheffield United do it. Is that, statistically, the best thing to do is just don't take risks. And yeah, you might concede 1 or 2, but you'll get the points, right? And if you're a team that's low on confidence, so, it may not be the champagne football we all hope and dream of, but that is, it's a high pressure job. And if you're looking to stay in your job, it's the right way to kind of go about. But let's look into this game. So I was quite curious as how we would try this out. And I'll tell you, what I was expecting this game is I thought Derby would be right up for it. I thought they'd really get into our faces. So I was expecting them to go man for man and push us up high. And I was a bit worried because I think Sheffield United, something they did is they bullied the team quite a lot. So I wasn't sure what we were going to do. And I was a bit wary that we'd leave gaps in. But fair play, this is 25 seconds in. And actually, you can see that here we were still pressing up high. So you can see the pressing trap here, trying to surround the Derby player with 3 people. And you can see as well that we wouldn't go as high as that example I gave you of Southampton, but we still were pretty high. So you can see Yannick Vestergaard there, and Ben Nelson came into team. They're quite high, and we won't even. And yeah, that's Luke Thomas up there and Ricardo. So we're still pushing quite high to begin with, but that did make me a bit worried because quite early on, I think this is Agamayang who gets, or I'm mispronouncing his name, Agamayang, isn't it? Something like that you call him, right? So he gets the ball here, and this is a bit worrying because you can see he's in between the spaces. This is on the break. And luckily, Skipp, not for the first time, obviously we're going to have a special segment on Ollie Skipp. He makes a great challenge and kind of sees it out. So I was a bit worried already. I was like, what are we doing here? Why are we leaving these gaps? Like, just get into the game and, calm down the crowd. But from that point on, to be fair, then it was pretty noticeable that we did change the tactics. And I've been calling for this for a while. This is what Southampton did to us. And it's to go more to a kind of mid-block. So you're a Football Manager fan, and we all know Gegenpress is busted in that game. But in real life, what teams are doing now is that they are pressing, but they're waiting until the other team pretty much comes into their half before they start the pressing trap, right? And so I think we've got a bit of work on this. And I'm not 100% sure we were entirely going for this. But what you can see here is here we are waiting our own half. Mavididi decides to go out to the fullback when he receives the ball. So see, this time around, it is actually in their half. And that's maybe where I would question if we should do that. Because here you can see he actually gets bypassed. But luckily, because we're in this kind of mid-block, even though we get a man taken out of the game with that pass, it's not catastrophic, right? We've got plenty of players back. Whereas, as I showed in the Southampton example, literally one pass and it's 1-on-1 versus phase, and we could be in big trouble. And yeah, you're right. We didn't concede in that first 5 minutes, and I think the mid-block is one of the big reasons why. So, thanks, Locks, for preparing this. Ben Nelson, after the game, he said, we wanted to do what many other teams have done to us. That was like the concept going into the game. And that's what I was calling out for, right? Is like, rather than just play. Basically, the story of, I think, the last 10 games has been, we've been trying to attack. The other team just counters us, hits us on transition, and we look like bozos, right? And it's like, we could do exactly the same thing. We literally won the Premier League doing it. So I said to you that I was turning into Imran. So not only were we going for the mid-block, but something that was nice to see, I think, is get forward. We were getting the ball forward a lot faster. Now, obviously, against Sheffield United, the first goal we conceded was from trying to play out from the back. So whilst we did play it out from the back on occasion, it was definitely notable in this game that we were going long, faster, more direct, which, in my opinion, unsurprisingly, is why we generated more chances and higher quality ones. So you can see quite early on, just 2 minutes into the game, and Jakob, look, he could make the bounce pass here. He could pass to Ben Nelson here, or Yannick Vestergaard here, or even Ricardo. He's got lots of options open, but he just boots it long. And here you can see that this is actually Mavididi. He wins it, and second contact then means Jordan Ayew can get the ball, and we're able to get on our bike. So that was an option there. You can see the false nines actually going to the wingers and using the wingers to hit it back into the midfield was an interesting concept here. But we were sometimes playing out from the back. But even when we played out from the back, it was noticeable that we still were going for that direct pass if it was on. So here you can see Stolacek. He plays it out to Ricardo. Now, normally, Ricardo would probably try and, wait and bait the press or do some kind of like fancy-ass sort of play. But not this time around. You can see he just hits it right away, ball over the top. And this actually is a much better chance than it first looked, because I kind of think if you put a bit of backspin on that ball, Fatal actually would have been in there.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that here, Derby playing the high line, man-for-man system, and that's all it takes is a simple ball over the top. And when you've got pace and quality, you can cause teams a problem. So that was good to see. But what's interesting is that, apologies for the numbers here, but I wanted to give a kind of apples-to-apples comparison. So this is against Sheffield United, this is against Derby County, and you can still see that the average pitch position is not that different. But the tweaks that he really made here, one, you can see Yannick is basically furthest man back with Nelson. So that's a good start, because I think Yannick has got to realise that those dreamy days of 2 years ago where he could play 10 yards in the opposition half, all the teams know how to deal with that now. He's got to be more respectful of what the other team can do. You can also see that the team isn't quite as far forward in general. Mavadidi's the furthest man forward. So we are kind of sitting in a mid-block. But on average, it's not that different. So it's not like, we're a massive sort of 20 yards further back or anything like that. But it was just these sort of individual decisions we were making and just being less gung-ho in general when on the ball. I think being more direct help us there. So that was a sort of small tweaks. So actually, I put man of the match there. That's a lie. The man of the match is coming up in a minute. But Bobby Reid, just wanted to talk about him quickly. So let's get on to the first goal. And so we're sitting in this mid-block. We're prepared to go direct and long if needed, and prepared to go forwards quickly. I think that's the biggest difference, right? The give it forward. Because that for me has been annoying as well, right? Is that we take too long. The infamous example you give me when Jakob could go long and instead he waits, and then goes long and then lose the ball anyway, right? Absolute bozo. So that is something that was good to see they kind of moved away from. So in this example, there's a sort of 50-50 battle going on early. Ricardo wins the ball back early. Then it sort of bounces off, goes to a Derby player, and then Ricky P's given a lot of respect early doors. He then wins the ball back again. So that was another exciting thing to see, I think, as well, that we weren't being bullied so much and we were winning our 50-50s a lot more, especially early on. Yeah. And he plays the ball to Ayew. Now, Ayew, we pad him so much on this show, and quite rightly so, because he slows down the attacks so often. But in this example, you can see he plays the ball immediately forwards to Fatawu, and doing that opens up the space now. You can see now, this is actually quite reminiscent of that Southampton example in the game I showed you, both against us and even when they played Charlton. So now we've turned Derby back to front. They've got all these players out the game. You've got Fatawu, you've got Bobby Reid here, you've got Jordan James. Now, you don't have Jordan Ayew, so that's one thing we have to bear in mind. Of course, he started this attack, so that's fair enough. So we go for the attack here, and even though we're only committing 4 people forward, so that's actually fewer than we would do normally, right? There's no fullbacks joining in the attack. There isn't even a striker. But because we've gone forward so much faster, Fatawu, look, I mean, what are Derby doing, by the way? Is this the conga line or something like that? Right, but Fatawu, he can drive down the wing. You got Jordan James running into the half space here. You got Bobby Reid joining the attack. You also got Mavadidi, and he's got plenty of options he can go for. And although Fatawu did have quite a bad game overall, I think the guys gave him only like 3.5 out of 10 in the match ratings. Here, he does well, waits his time. Yeah, can we play Derby? Plays the ball into Jordan James. And this is funny because he actually missed, it's actually a bad first touch. But you can just see he's such a good player that he still makes so much of it that just look at that. He's getting absolutely, compressed by 4 people to press him. And he still finds the pass into Bobby Reid. And that was a delightful finish from Bobby Reid, who I think has started to really sort of show us. He was supposed to be a player that was proven in the Championship. And I think finally he is actually starting to achieve that. So that was a great goal. And that was all on transition. And we scored that goal super quick. So I'd love to see it, a bit of a smash and grab. What did you make of that goal?
Great goal, mate. Great goal. It was. I think we all said at the time it was great to see a goal, a well-worked goal that wasn't just off individual brilliance. Yeah. Because there's been many times this season where we have come away with the win, and you sit there at the end of the game and you think, what did we do in that game that was good? We've scored a couple of goals, we've won the game, but where was the really good team play? It's not really there. You can't really pick it out of the top of your mind. So for this one, I think it showed how important getting it forward is, and playing with pace, playing with intent. It's something that we don't see enough. It's why fans get annoyed, and Marty. Look, I like to put forward my case for why Marty should stay, but I can understand why fans watching the football every week don't feel that way. Is because we don't play like this enough. So it was good to see that back in action, and it was an overall kind of brilliant team goal.
Yeah, I think for me, this is the first game all season, which is a bit worrying after 18 games, where the actual tactics and style of play we went for, that was the reason we won the game.
Yeah,
and that's great to see. And so that is repeatable, because that's the thing I said before. Fatawu hitting it from 25 yards, he's done it a few times, but you're not going to do that every game. But what I saw in this game, we could do that every week. It's not obviously going to work 100% of the time, but it's got a much higher chance of working. So that was 1-0. I'm actually now going to jump, believe it or not, to the third goal. We'll talk about Skips afterwards. So man of the match for me was Jordan James, one of the best signings in the Championship, probably the best player we've signed in quite a long time. I actually think pound for pound, he's actually a better signing even than Bilal El Khanous, believe it or not. Maybe not in terms of technical ability, but I think that his attitude and his sort of ability to drive the rest of the team is something we haven't seen in a long time. He's more than just a good player, in my opinion.
I don't think that's a wild take. I don't think that's a wild take at all, saying that he's a better signing than Bilal, because they're two different players. So JJ gives you a completely different dynamic than Bilal did. And obviously the price, if we were able to make it permanent, it's 5 million quid, right? It's a quarter of the price that Bilal costs. So, yes, you're not getting you're looking at Bilal now in Germany, and he's showing he's a Champions League level player, in my opinion, atop of all the data charts across Europe, and he'll be playing probably in the Premier League. I mean, there's rumours that Newcastle want him. JJ isn't that player, but Kiernan Dewsbury Hall wasn't a Bilal player, but we'd all still absolutely love having him here. So 5 million quid, absolute steal. And you know what? I would agree with you. I think it is a better signing than Bilal. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So, look at his numbers. Brilliant. 38 touches, 85% passing accuracy, a goal, an assist, created another big chance. His one shot was on target. He scored, accurate long balls, crosses. And like I said, I think the best thing is in terms of the physical duel as well. I mean, that's a big part of his game as well. He wins the tackles, wins the ground duels, intercepts, pay the money, as it says. He was outstanding. So he got on the score sheet as well. And here we're going to see it as well. Now, what I like about this, right, is this also shows you, and this I think is another reason to be excited, is that here we're 2-0 up and we've been playing the mid-block and we've been kicking it long. So then what the opposition is going to do is they're going to think, well, hold on a minute. Maybe we shouldn't just go man for man the whole time, right? Because we're getting caught out. So maybe we'll step back. And at this point in time, in fact, John Eustace had some time to speak to his team and try and fix some things. But see, here's the thing where you can be damned if you do and damned if you don't. So here they actually step up our midfielders. And you can see because of the rotation, actually Bobby Reid's dropped in to be the carrying player here, the number 6. So the ball comes to Bobby Reid and he's got all this space and time, and that means he can get it and he can just completely turn totally, unchallenged, which is unheard of, really, right? And if you're a quality player, if you give them time and space on the ball, they're going to hurt you. So he gets the ball here, and that means he can drive forwards, again, unchallenged, and then you can just pick out a wonderful pass here to Mavididi, plays it, again, direct, no need for bounce passes, as Conscious was saying there before. He can see the space, go for it, gear it forward, finds Mavididi, and then what I like about Mavididi, I've never seen him do this to Victor Christensen, so maybe Marty is getting through to him. He didn't try and beat his man too much. He just played the ball back to Thomas, who joined the attack. You can see that we're getting lots of players into the box. So look at Bobby Reid, who started the attack, is also getting all the way forward to join in the attack in case there's a bounce out. Plays it in. Jordan James drifts in between the lines, and great touch, and that was 3-0, which was great to see. So that also shows you that even if teams then back off you, because what's going to happen, I think, I don't know about tomorrow, but when you try and play counter-attacking yourself, is what happens when you get two teams that are trying to counter-attack one another, right? That can be kind of boring. Yeah. And because we're Leicester, when teams come to the King Power, they're going to, and because our fans are there, they're going to expect us to want to attack. So what do you do? Now, as stupid as it sounds, sometimes the best tactic, locks, and this is going to sound stupid, is literally just kick it to them and let them have it. Right? Yeah. But they can do the same thing back. But that's still good to see that if we
it's like that. Do you remember back in the Premier? I can't remember when it was. Someone in the chat will know with good knowledge. Was it in the Premier League like a few years ago where there were two teams who needed to draw to stay in the Premier League, and they literally just passed it around each other just kept giving the ball to each other for like 90 minutes, basically. Yeah.
I mean, you can understand why it happens, right? Is ulterior motives, but there you go. That could happen. So I don't think we'll get there yet. It is possible something that will happen. But there you go. There was the 3-0. So obviously the man, the myth, the legend that we have to talk about because we've slated him so much on this show is the Pirlo regen, Ollie Skipp. Here's how I now imagine him in my mind. I feel a bit sorry for him actually because he got interviewed after the game and he was so nervous. I mean, thing is, fans don't, that they want to see better. It's not your fault for the price tag, but that's what happens. But look, fair play to him. He had a brilliant game in this game, and it wasn't just because of the goal. So I'm going to show you all of the things that he did in this game that I think were really good. So first things first, he was playing instead of Winks. We'll talk about Winks at the end maybe, because we may well have seen the last of him in a Leicester shirt. But he was able to act as the bounce pass and play his way out of trouble. So you can see Stolarczyk's going to play it into this area. Skipp's going to move into there. He gets the ball, plays it here now into Ben Nelson. And that's to try and pull some of the Derby players away and make extra space for other players in the build-up. So he was capable of doing that, which was good to see. I showed you, of course, the challenge he made earlier as well, which was very good. But another thing that I think was most impressive in this game is this is the first time I think I've really seen him consistently provide quality line breaking passes. I have seen him do it once or twice, but it normally is only once or twice in the game. So here was early on, he picks up the ball, drives forward to trying to progress the ball. And then here you can see goes for this through ball here to try and find Mavididi. And this is something that when he was at Norwich, he was much more, inclined to do. We haven't really seen it at all in his Leicester career so far. So this one gets picked out, but you can see that he's sort of one away. If he pulls that pass off, Mavididi's through on goal. So, you can see he's looking for it, which was good to see. And here, just at the end of the first half, we probably should have scored. So Ayew wins the ball back, plays it into Skipp. And Skipp, again, this time round, he's had one go wrong. So this time he can play the pass, and he plays it brilliantly over the top it into Mavididi. Mavididi gets it. JJ's joining in the attack. And look at that. Very simple, quick one ball over the top. And, I think Mavididi, you can see what he goes for. He tries to put it here. And JJ's not far away from getting that to make that 4-0. So very good from Skipp. And then, of course, he gets off the score sheet as well. So here's from the corner. It always makes me laugh when we do this, that we put the shortest man in here. And I've always found it stupid. But to be fair, this time round, it ricochets, comes to him. And it's pretty good technique, I would say. I mean, they do say he shinned it, which you can kind of see here. But look at that. It's kind of karate kicking it into it. So that was a good finish. And, one thing I'll say is Skipp, much maligned as he is, he's now got on the score sheet. Buba Samari's never scored for Leicester. So, it does show you that I think that attitude is important.
That was his fourth.
Go on, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say that was his fourth career goal. His fourth.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't
he scored
that many. Yeah.
He scored 3. That was his third. Sorry, the other one was in Premier League 2, right? So that doesn't really count. So he scored once for Norwich before, and he scored once for Spurs. So it was only his third one.
He's scored for his third club. There you go. And here in the second half as well, he was unlucky not to set up an attack here. So this is probably the best of all of his play. He wins the 50-50 duel here after a ricochet, drives forward with the ball, and you can see Derby are in big trouble. If he gets past this man, we're completely through on. We'd probably have a 3-on-2. And as a result on that, the Derby man has to bring him down and take the yellow, because otherwise it's going to Jordan Ayew and we're going to be through there. So that was good play, showing that directness. Again, not just trying to bounce pass or tippy-tappy his way through, just be direct. I think that was the big, talking point of the game, just being direct, and he was definitely part of it. So that was good. The only thing I am going to say about Skipp, though, is there's some advice for him. I don't know if he does watch our content or not. Probably not, given the way that we slate him. But if he was, I think I love his attitude, but I think there's one thing he's got to watch out for, and that's what I'm showing here. And that is that he does have a tendency to go to ground too early, in my opinion. We all love a slide tackle, but there's times and places to go for a slide tackle. And in my opinion, you're best off going for it when you're near the touchline, because the touchline acts as like an extra defender. So in this example, you can see, I'll play the kind of attack here. He's 50-50. Again, this is Patrick Aguirre again. And, this is a size mismatch. I'm actually the same height as Skipp, so I actually know exactly how this feels when you're defending someone who's, almost a foot taller than you and much stronger. And yeah, he keeps with him and goes in for the slide tackle. Now, he's unlucky, right? Because he actually wins the ball. He gets a foot on the ball. But because he's kind of gone through and he looked like he's out of control, the ref has given the free kick. And actually, Derby end up scoring off this, right? So that was super frustrating. So yeah, I just think you've got the right attitude, but look at your position. Like maybe here you're too tight. I mean, I get it. If you're not tight enough, then you may not be able to make the tackle. But I think you just got to be respectful of your game. Look at those Kante videos, right? Kante wasn't the biggest guy either, but his timing of the challenge was important. I think he just goes to ground too often. I think sometimes even if the player does get a bit of a run on you, just follow up rather than. I feel with him, it's quite desperation tackling at some time. So anyway, I'm not going to say him too much. He was very good in this game. If he plays like this every week, no one's really going to have a problem with him. So he was good. And yeah, I think it's interesting that then, at the end of all that, Jordan James here, he goes, this is who we want to be. He's talking about being like, the identity of the team, which I guess is being tough in the tackle, being direct, scoring. That's good to see. Now, what I will say, though, and of course, everyone's put this in chat, we just talked about a minute ago, is the lack of a 90-minute performance. So I've got to say, after we went in 3-0 up, I actually thought we'd win this game maybe 5-1. Because what my expectation was, is I thought that Derby would come out, they'd try and get a goal, and they might even get one, which they did, but they'd leave so much space in behind that we'd probably score off it. So that was my expectation for the game. I was pretty confident. I never thought they'd get back into it, even when they scored, to be honest. But when we look at the stats, it's definitely a tale of two halves. So the first half was good, right? I mean, I think this XG is a bit low, to be honest with you, because, I don't know, we didn't really score, in my opinion, what I'd call like worldies. We scored all of our chances that we created. But what I think is impressive is, despite not having much possession, Derby had nothing, right? And I think that doesn't get talked about enough. Is not only did we score, but previous times, we've capitulated in other games, or we've let the other team get back into it. But in this case, we didn't give them a sniff at all. It was just a completely one-sided game, which is really what you want to see for a so-called top team in the Championship. Now, second half doesn't look for great reading, because you can see we had, 26% possession, and Derby did have 3 big chances, and Stavacek did make some good saves, you got to say. But at the same time, it wasn't disastrous. But I think, the big thing is that, if you compare we only had 4 shots in this second half, no big chances. I don't think we had a shot on target. So, that was a frustrating thing. But what I'm going to show you is that, although that was the case, it's a little bit misleading. So we did try and have some threat on the breaks. I'm going to show you the story of the second half. Now, this is early on. Jordan James again now. He drifts out to the right-hand side, and he puts a really wicked low cross in. You might remember this. It sort of always goes past everyone. And, if someone was a bit more daring and stuck a foot out it, maybe they could get something to. So you can see we were still trying to hit teams on the break. But what we then started to do is that I think basically we reverted to our old type, which I know that Marty says the players don't listen to him, and I have my own opinions on that. But for example, here in this moment, you've got Yannick Vestergaard on the ball. Now, what do you think he's going to do? Because I've shown this example so many times all season, right? What's he going to go for here?
The diag.
I wish he was going to go for the diag.
The line splitting pass through the middle of the park. Yeah,
he's going to go for the line splitting pass between the middle of the park to try and bypass this player and the midfield, and here he's going to try and hit Bobby Reid. Now, when it comes off, it looks great, but the problem is if it doesn't come off, like in this example, you just give the ball back to the other team. And I think actually the diag would be a better option, because at least there's a chance if it goes wrong that it could go out for a throw-in or a 50-50. This is sort of like, okay, if Bobby Reid gets it, he could maybe turn it into IU and start the attack. But yeah, like I said, I just think it's almost like a little bit of going back to the old type of what we were this season. So as a result of that, you can start seeing that we started getting pretty deep. So now this is not a mid block, right? Now we're in a low block, okay? And that is not what you want to see, right? Because now you're going to start seeing wave after wave of pressure, right? So the trick is that you want to be compact, but you don't want to be this deep, right? You want to be a bit more compact, a bit higher up. So then I think Marty had some words with the team. We did try to restore the mid block here and get back into the shape. So this is what we really want to see, I think, tomorrow as well. But again, sort of going back to where we were, then I still think we were guilty of just being over commitment and putting too many players forward. So here we've got the ball, we're trying to attack. Now we're 3-0 up at this point as well, by the way, right? So you got Luke Thomas inverting all the way up here. You got Ricky and all these other players up here as well. Ollie Skipp's quite high pushed up. And so what that means is that JJ and Skipp there together and Bobby Reid, you've got no midfielders behind this position. The ball ends up getting turned over here, played into Bobby Reid, gets turned over. And now look at this. This is exactly what we don't want to see, right? So now it's always like a case. So even though we're 3-0 up and there's no need for us to take this sort of risk and end up with the other team having like an advantage on us on the break, that's exactly what's happened. And this is the example where Skipp then has to make amends for the fact that someone else in this team has lost the ball, and then that is going to result basically in one of these set pieces. It gets delivered in, and that's the goal that they get. Now that is a bit disappointing. I can't really say. Well, it looks like Yannick's probably ducking properly, which is a bit unfortunate. I actually got a question for you, and maybe everyone in chat, which is that I've seen that Harry Suter might be match fit now, and the thing is, if we were going to play high line, I think he'd be terrible in that system. But I'm just thinking in this position, if the ball's coming in, I sure wouldn't mind having a 6'7" massive Aussie bloke there to head the
Well,
ball clear.
Well, just for context, if anybody missed the Sunday Good Morning Foxes, Graham Brock, who lives in the upper class village of wherever he is, his local pub. That's where Harry Suter goes in, and he met Harry Suter, and Harry Suter said that he will be back available in January. He's back training to some degree, right? Light training, so he will be back next month. Yeah. So
Okay,
I don't know, man. I think Harry Suter is another perfect example of when fans big up a player who isn't in the team currently, right? I mean, I'm seeing people say he's our best centre back, and I'm like, wow. So yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure how he would fare in this current setup, to be honest.
Well, we'll have to see. I'm not saying I'm certainly not going to call him like the second coming. I think if a Coley comes back into the team, it'll probably be him and Ben Nelson. But I mean, speaking of, that was a Derby goal, but I want to give Ben Nelson a shout out. So he came into the team. We didn't really kind of speak about it, but looking at his stats again, pretty good. Look at that. 4 out of 4 ground duels won, 5 out of 8 aerial duels, 2 interceptions, 5 clearances. He was solid, basically, and that was very good for the young man, given that, he had that nightmare performance under Marty, and this was his first start, I think, since his injury. He was quality, and he just looks like he belongs now at this level at minimum with the upper ceiling. So good to see, and I think, again, this sort of system suits a player like him. He's not going to be overly exposed the whole time, and will still have some time to play on the ball if he needs to. So, yeah, good going then from Ben Nelson. So, what could we do to improve it then, especially that second half? I'm going to call out some things where I think we could improve. So number one, this is my pet peeve right now, is that long balls, I get it. They're super effective right now. The Premier League, everyone's talking about Arsenal, Brentford, Bournemouth, all these teams that are good at long throws, right? But a team that isn't good at long throws, Locks? Leicester City. Yeah. Leicester City. And we keep trying it, right? And I get it. Luke Thomas does appear to be able to throw the ball further than most. Yeah. But he's just not good enough for really going for the long ball tactic. I don't think we've even made a shot this season from a long ball from one of his, right? So I really wish they wouldn't do it. So here, the idea is to throw it long and get it into the mix like you're having a corner. But instead, you can see that he ends up sort of throwing it diagonally down and it just gets easily dealt with. And so all we're doing in these cases is we're giving your opposition loads of time to set the defensive shape. It means all of our position players are out of position on transition, and we'd never really get anything. So that's one thing I want to see us stop doing. I think I'd get it if we signed someone who is genuinely good at long throws. Like I know Sunderland signed this midfielder who's just because he's really good at long throws. Like, that would make sense. But Luke Thomas is not the answer. I'm sorry. So that's something I want to see us cut out. But the more important thing, I'll get to this, is the transitions, right? So what was kind of weird is in the first half we were excellent at transitions, but in the second half, because that attacking midfielders didn't get forward as much and it was more based on the wingers, our transition was just very lackluster, I've put here. Whereas I think if we were better, we would have got those 2 extra goals in the second half, despite not really appearing to create that much. I think we actually did have some opportunities to create. So here you can see it's actually Nelson on the ball. He's going to go for the long ball over the top, and it goes in here to Fatawu. And, if you just stop it here, this is a promising position. He's beaten both his men. You got Mavadidi on his bike. And if he can put like a curled cross in here or even have a shot himself, there is the opportunity to get something in. I will say that here's the problem with having Jordan Ayew in the team, which is that even if he is a false 9, he's never going to join in the attacks, right? And you'll see when Daka comes on a bit later, that's something that improved. But for Tawu here, he just kind of bozes it up and he takes too long and the ball gets kind of dealt with. So again, that's being faster, more direct on transition. I think it is something that can be coached and worked on, but we need to, because otherwise right now we're kind of giving away what should be a quote unquote easy way for us to make goal scoring opportunities. Here's another example. Ball gets played out here. I think that's to Ricky. He gets the ball. Yeah, it's Ricardo on the ball. He plays it into midfield and we're looking for the quick return. Because this is actually Fatawu again, actually. So this is why I think everyone gave him such a negative rating. Because in his second half, when he was actually starting to get a lot of time and space, especially on the counter attack, where he should be brilliant, he was just being a bozo. He
fumbled it.
Yeah. And here's another example where again he doesn't have to try anything too clever, but instead he just let's play that back again. He just play the ball here. He's trying to play it in front of Ricardo for the give and go, but he just over honks it, and we lose the ball. And again, here, actually, I remember the commentator saying what he could have done is, if you look here, there was a totally free pass there to Mavadidi that he could have played.
Yeah.
Just a real simple diagonal, and Mavadidi would have been 1-on-1. So again, just got to be a bit cleverer there with the choice of pass. Now, at this point, you've got Silko Thomas has come on the pitch. You've got Patson Daka. And look at it here again. Patson Daka's fast. So he is going to be able to join the attack. We get forward. And again, when I look at this sort of position, if you look at some of the teams in the Premier League, like, Bournemouth would be the best example of this. They're lethal in this kind of position on transition, even though it's sort of just, 4-on-4. We drive forward with the ball. And again, here, there's a lot of opportunity, but plays the ball out there and then kind of gets returned into Silko and it kind of gets easily dealt with. So that's not the worst. But again, it's kind of like when I look back at I think especially this phase of play, this one right here, I think we should be working the keeper at some form at this point in time. So again, it's something we need to improve on in terms of where people are taking up positions. I mean, to be fair, Silko's come on for Fatawu there, so he's maybe not as familiar with the role. And then here's another example. This is actually Mavadidi on the ball. Gets the ball, drives into the middle here. And look at that, the way that Derby have defended. He's got a clean sort of run here. This is Silko Thomas. He should be making more of a run. I mean, look at that. He should be like, getting on his bike to try and find some space in there. Mavadidi tries to go it alone and he ends up getting dealt with again. So again, that could have been an opportunity. And this one, the more that I look at it, I don't understand what the hell went wrong here. This is like a dream scenario. 3-on-2, you got a simple pass this way or a simple pass this way. Or I suppose if you're really selfish, just drive straight through the middle and have a shot. And in the end, just dilly-dallies on the ball too much. And the Derby defender gets it. And that's the worst possible thing that could happen because just a simple pass in here and Daka would be through there to score. So, yeah, I think we actually could have got those goals. And what I'll say, I mean, look, that's a bit harsh, I think, here. You're saying Silko Thomas looks crap. Maybe. I think you're not the only one that says that. But he's only coming into the team. Right, I will say that I still think he got the ball into better progressive positions than Fatawu did when he was on the pitch. So let's see how he goes. I mean, if I'm being honest, yeah, this should have been Jeremy Monga or maybe Jake Evans. And I think that playing this system will suit these players as well because they're going to have, it doesn't matter about their physical stature if they're just going to be played on the counter-attack when they're one-on-one, right? So that's something to look forward to. So anyway, just kind of rounding things up, what do we think? Here's a summary of the game. For me, it was good to see a change in approach given the embarrassing defeats that we had previous to this. Much needed. I think if we hadn't, we probably would have lost the game and that would have been the end of the manager. I think the first half was magnificent. And I think we got to say it again, that was without Harry Winks. We haven't really talked about that at all, right? Earlier on in the season, we were relying upon him coming off the bench or starting to give us any chance. We've just proved we don't need him. And as it looks like he may well have left, or played his last game for the club, that's good to know that we don't need him in order to be able to win games. We also didn't have Wout Faes, Ben Nelson, more than able deputy. So I think that's impressive. That was probably our best first half of the season and without two of our so-called, star players. I will say, I think the result maybe feels a bit generous because we were clinical. We need to make a bit more chances, but I think that will come. But yeah, I mean, for example, we're not going to be 3-0 up for next GF1 at half time in every game, right? It's going to be a bit more harder than that. We need to work more with the wingers on transition, with decision making to create more of a threat on the break. So this is a funny game. I can't really remember the last time that all three central midfielders scored, which they did, but none of the wingers scored. And Jordan Ayew a bit unlucky because he did actually score a goal, which I didn't show here, that was ruled out for offside. And I said the second half was disappointing, given how good the first one was. But overall, you would have taken that. It doesn't really matter. We needed to get the win. It was the professional approach, and we got the win. So yeah, that's kind of what I feel there about the game. And we'll talk about everything, go through the comments now. I'll just show you how the league ended up. So yeah, the crazy thing is, someone mentioned there before, is as a result of all of that, we've been so awful this season. And yet, just look how compressed the league is. If we're only 4 points off Ipswich, and we're playing them in 2 games' time, right? Now, obviously, we haven't got the points deduction factored in yet, but all you need to do is go on a bit of a streak, and you can go surging up the table or surging down. That's the problem. So there's still plenty to play for there. So something to think about. And I think, yeah, we did say that this Christmas period is going to be pretty important. And, here's the next couple of fixtures. So, yeah, you can see that we're almost starting to play some of the teams twice already, which is kind of crazy, right? So we've got Bristol City, we've got Ipswich Town, we've got QPR, we've got Watford. Then we're playing Derby again. So we're actually playing Derby again in the league twice this calendar year, which is kind of crazy, in the half of the season. And we're also playing Sheffield United again as well. So, yeah, the games are coming thick and fast. And it'll be interesting to see what we get out of them. But I think given all of that, I am feeling more optimistic than I was before. So I've spoken a lot. What do you think? And let's also go through some of the comments in chat.
Yeah, so there was a comment I'd really wanted to bring up here, which said, I'm going to lose. I'm going tomorrow. If we lose, are we back to square one? I mean, Anil, it would feel like that, wouldn't it? Like mentally, like if we went and put in a stinky performance, if we put in a stinky performance this time round, it would just feel like rock bottom again. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean about that? Like,
Maybe
because it feels like we've taken a step forward, right? So if we go in and put in like a performance like we did in the Sheffield United game, yeah, that's true as well. I suppose that is true. That is true.
So for me, Locks, I'll answer that question right. The reason why I was starting to get pissed off with Martin, I thought he should go, is because he was not changing his setup. And I said to you, look, I get it. I'm not expecting this team to go on like a 15-game winning streak and surge to the top of the table. But what he's doing is just bozo. And another manager will come in, they'll do exactly what he did do in this game and set up the mid-block and counter-attack, and the team will get more results and better performances. They won't necessarily look incredible, but they'll probably be a team that, I don't know if we'll get there, but they should be a team that gets to the playoffs if they played like that for the whole season. Now, to be fair, he has done that. So now the thing is that even if we're bad tomorrow, if he plays that way, it's harder for me to then say, oh, but I think someone else could do a better job. Because now, with what we're seeing, that is getting close to the best a team can be. Obviously, he can tweak it. I think, for example, the mid-block, he needs to get the players to stop overcommitting in certain places. We need to be much better on the transition. That is something we'll learn about him. If all of a sudden, the wingers start scoring goals because of their... do you remember that Birmingham game where Mavadidi scored a hat-trick, right? Or the Southampton game? If those goals start returning, then yes, perfect. No one's really going to improve it. If he can't, then maybe that's something we could look into. But I think for me, now it is going to come down to we're getting towards the maximum that this team can do. So tomorrow, if we lost, but we still set in the mid-block and tried to counter-attack, and we just wasn't good enough, personally, I'd be upset, but I'd be like, I don't really know what else we can do kind of thing, right? Unless we get one of these weird games, like I say, where both teams try to counter one another, which I don't think will happen tomorrow. But, that could happen, I think, especially in the home games. That could be it. But, yeah, so I don't think we would be back to square one. But, of course, if we put a clanger of a performance in, it will be disappointing. We'll have to see. But, I mean, the game's coming thick and fast now as well. I mean, you mentioned, I think, there were 7 academy graduates on the pitch by the end, right? If I did have one negative thing, actually, is that I don't think he put the players on fast enough in that second half. He only did Hamza Chowdhury for Bobby Reid. And I think being 3-0 up, that was the ideal time to give Bade Aluko, Lewis Page, like a full 30 minutes, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's an interesting comment here from DP. So I think you started this one, Anil. Bit off topic, but do you think the players get nervous playing at home with all the boos? Because for a away game, it seems like they have more freedom. I mean, it's definitely going to play a part. This isn't whether it should or not, rightly or wrongly. Professional footballers, they should be able to get on with their job, right? But it definitely would mentally play a part in their performance.
This has been an issue for years now. I reckon it could be even 4 or 5 years that's been the case. Even in the Enzo season, people forget our record on the road was much better than it was at home. But there were two things related there. One was, the nervousness. But the other thing was that it still happens in the championship, right? When you're at home, you're expected to go and attack the game, not play like the away team. Now, the thing is, like I said, is when we played Southampton, we lost the game because I remember saying that in the first 15 minutes, we looked like the home team here, and that's why we got battered. So we don't necessarily have to go that way. But look, I do think that's true. But at the same time, there's, you start putting some good performances together and then the crowd will get back with you. But I mean, look, it's a weird thing, right? Like at the moment, the ground is so empty. No one really feels anything. People really hate this team right now as well. Thank God for Jordan James. Like I will say that Derby game, you could hear the chant going all the way through in that second half. and it's good. You can see the fans want a hero. They want the talisman to rally behind. So we can see it there. But I think it is making it more nervous, and that isn't maybe going to help the younger players. But it is what it is. It is what it is, man.
Well, I'm going to say, Anil. I mean, you look at the lineup right on Saturday, and you know, I don't necessarily think they do hate that lineup. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's one or two players there that we would all rather weren't playing, of course, if we had suitable replacements. But I mean, if I count on my two hands here, so Jakob, Ricardo, Nelson, James, Fatawu, Mavididi, Bobby Reed, even. I'll include Skipp, right? Because Skipp's probably loved now.
I think people have come round on him,
Yeah, there's 8 players, right? You know, the only ones I've not included there are Ayew, Luke Thomas, and Vestergaard. But there's a lot of people who like Thomas because he's local.
Yeah.
So there's 9 if you include him. So
I think even Yannick gets a pass. I honestly think it'd be just Ayew in that team. The way that he was so miserable coming off as well, that's not something you want to see. So I actually have to say, didn't really mention it there, but I think Daka should be starting. I don't think he will because Ayew set up that first goal and he should have scored a goal. He was unfortunate. It was a great diving header. But I just think that, like, you see, having Daka with his pace means that he can join in on the attack more often if we're playing on the mid block. Whereas otherwise, the tactic is that Jordan Ayew's there to win challenges and stuff like that. But like I say, I think he'll do it. But you know, but I will say actually that is going to be a bit of a concern because obviously Patson Daka's going to be going to AFCON. I think this is his last game before he heads off there, right? Carranza, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, maybe we'll see Silko Thomas up front. I don't know. I think we need the pace. Yeah, come on, let's talk about this.
Well, there's no way he starts. I mean, I don't think anyone would be surprised now if he's played his last game. I mean, the rumours doing the rounds online. If you're a Fox's Talk viewer, what's the word? Yeah, if you use Fox's Talk, you'll see that Harry Winks is apparently on the verge of a move to Spain, and that may or may not be linked to the recent fallout. You know, maybe he's been having secret talks. Who knows? But it looks like Winks is definitely played his last game. I mean, I think, Anil, look, Marty's got an easy win here. Just don't play Winks again. If he plays him, Anil, like if he even was on the bench tomorrow over a Lewis Page or someone like that, I think the fans would be right on Marty's back again, saying, "What the hell are you doing?" I mean, you know, if John Percy's tweeting about it, mate, saying, you know, what did Percy say? He said because of issues with preparation and in training. So that says all you need to know, doesn't it, Anil?
It's funny that news has come out. I mean, the way in that Sheffield United is pulling out of challenges makes a lot of sense now. He doesn't want to get injured. That said, I do think that even midweek, my prediction is that I reckon behind the scenes, Marty said we're not going to play the possession football anymore, we're playing counter-attack. And I reckon he's going, no, I'm not doing that. You know, and whereas the rest of the team, because if you remember, even under Steve Cooper, we've been talking about him in the BTG chat recently, which is that, you know, he said to the players, look, you can't play that Enzo way, it ain't going to work. Now, I think it was unfair to change it immediately, right? But if you remember, players like Vardy and Cody didn't have a problem. They were like, okay, we'll just be professional. And if this is what we've been asked to do, we'll play this way now. Whereas clearly some other players on the team were like, no, this is bullshit. We want to play the system that we're familiar with. So I think there's something to do there. But yeah, you're right. I think he will go in January. You know, worst case scenario, we'll just loan him out somewhere or take a hit on the wages and we'll just pay who it is. And I think we just proved that we don't need him in order to win games. So give the
it depends, doesn't it? It depends how we play. And this is your point, right? It's that if we're going to play a possession-based style of football, you need Winks. And I think but they're not flipping it, Anil. He needs that. Yeah. So if you don't play that way, you are stifling Harry Winks. And it's a bit like if you were to not play, you know, not so much in his later career, Anil, because he developed, but Vardy at 15, 16, I mean, under Puel, it stifled Vardy. It stifled Vardy. And, you know, I think he had some choice words for Club Puel towards the end, right? He played a part in his dismissal. So, yeah, you know, I think that's probably part of the problem there. And And look, I don't think any of us, I wanted to bring this comment up in there because Kate raised this on the weekend on Sunday. She said, so it was about this comment, not that one. Sorry, where is it? I can't find it now. There we go. Genuine question: What is Winks' issue with the club? And I think Kate raised the point, Anil, that basically that. What is your problem? Like your career at Spurs, it died basically. You went to Italy, and I think he was relegated with one of the teams over in Italy, Sampdoria. Yeah. He was relegated with Sampdoria. He came back to England. Leicester gave him a chance. Leicester gave him a very good wage as well, and I bet there wasn't much difference between his Spurs contract and his Leicester contract. Yeah. We gave him a great season, a championship season, and as soon as things don't go your way, you throw your toys out of the pram and acts like this. It's disgraceful. And I know you made a comment in the week, which I did disagree with, Anel, that about due diligence. I mean, there was nothing really in Winks' history to suggest that we know of to suggest that this would happen. So it's very strange how it's all kind of spiraled out of control. And there was a good comment that I saw on Fox's Talk earlier as well, Anil, about Spain, and it was like, he didn't even want to stay at Seagrave one night a week, and he's going to go over to Spain. All right, you know what I mean. So it's crazy. It's really disappointing, Anil, because when he came in for that one season under Renzo, he was loved. He was loved by Leicester fans, and he's basically repaid us by spitting in our faces. Pretty much. Yeah,
it's so weird that he would do that way. I mean, you're right. I agree with you with the due diligence thing. I think the Cody one is the one that I had an issue with. But Winks, to be fair, he was known as being a model professional. I wouldn't necessarily call him a leader, but you wouldn't think he would do what he did. Is very surprising. But it is weird from him as well, because the irony is that he got dropped from Spurs because you had Mourinho and then Conte and then Nuno came in, and the way that they play, obviously Winks doesn't suit their style, right? So that's why he ended up being out of the team. Although, ironically, he probably would have been quite good under Ange, although Ange got sacked as well, right? So, yeah, and now, he's at real crossroads. I think he's lucky if he can go to Spain because, it's interesting that Brentford were sniffing around him, but they went for Jordan Henderson instead. And I just think because they know that, you look at his performances, he gets pushed off the ball too much. I mean, that said, I feel Skipp is a bit like that as well, even if he's got a better attitude. But yeah,
you got to think, you got to think if that plays a part as well, Neil, because I'm not being funny, mate. His mates, his friends are all Harry, they're big dogs, right? Harry Kane and, and Humminson and all of these. And his friends are all playing in very, very big teams.
He played the Champions League final, Harry Winks. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I get it. I do get it. But at the same time, sometimes you've got to look in the mirror and wonder why it is. And age is a factor. But that said, I've got to say, when you look at Bilal ratted his way out and got a move. If you compared Winks to FaZe or some of the other players we tried to get rid of, Connor Cody got a move, but Harry Winks didn't. But Connor Cody's been rubbish. Where I still think I agree that Harry Winks is a rat and he should go. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's half decent if he plays over there. I actually thought he might go to Serie A because. I mean, look at Vardy, for example. You can see that the level isn't as high as the Premier League because he looks amazing over in Italy. Right? It just goes to show you that peak Vardy would have destroyed Serie A. So, I would have thought he maybe could have gone over there, but very weird, isn't it? A lot of people are asking about Jeremy Monga, by the way. We don't know what happened with him. Has there been anything in the press conference?
Injured.
He's injured. Yeah.
But so I think they said he'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Okay. But yeah, I think Jeremy Monga, this system should suit him, right? Because if he's one-on-one on the counter-attack, I mean, I'd back Monga every time. I think he's could score a lot of goals that way. And like I say, you don't necessarily have to be so big, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you've got to say that, we saw Monga in pre-season. We saw Monga early in this season when we were playing better, you could say. You've got to say that maybe in the last kind of few weeks, couple of months, he's been limited, right, by the system and how the team have played. So if this is a turn in form, like we are all hoping it is, with that performance, the first half performance against Derby, you imagine Monga in that team in the first half against Derby, in that Mavididi role or whatever, whichever role, right? you'd back him. So hopefully we continue to play this way, and hopefully he comes into that and gets given another chance, because I think he, like you said, I think he'll smash it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, let's leave it there. So we're back tomorrow for Bristol City away. What time's kickoff? Is it 7:30 or is it 8?
7:45 kickoff, so we will be live from 7:30. Yeah, 7:30 we'll be live from 15 minutes before kickoff. Do you think it'll be an unchanged side, Anil, or do you think maybe Ricardo might come out? Could we see Bade Aluko at right back?
That's what I was gonna say. That's what he should do.
Marty brought him on at right back, didn't he, in the second half? So maybe he was just dipping his feet in the water there, so he starts tomorrow.
And he used Hamza to come into the midfield, which I don't have a problem with if you're going to play this kind of lower mid-block style, because you want competition there. So I hope that is what he does. Again, that would give him more respect to him. I could see some other changes as well. Like I could see Daka starting as well. Not just because the games come thick and fast. It wouldn't necessarily even be like, oh, I'm unhappy with your performance. So I would expect maybe more than one change. I think there could be 2 changes. Because the thing is, as well, as after this, we got Ipswich, and Ipswich just beat Coventry 3-0. So even though Coventry are top and have been the best team, are they actually the best team? You know, that's something that remains to be seen. And
yeah, we want to see a Bade Aluko start and a Bade Aluko goal and a glasses celebration from Bade Aluko when he scores his first goal. Let's see. But yeah, just a quick one from me as well. So yeah, we've got that on Wednesday, and then also on Thursday. We don't normally do a live stream on Thursday, but we are this week. We've got an interview with Ian Basin from the Foxes Trust. The Foxes Trust have a big there's a big election basically going on over the next couple of weeks, I think, or the next few weeks, whenever it is. So Ian's going to be coming on to have a chat with us about that and what's going on, because there's a lot of crazy shit going on with the Foxes Trust at the minute. A lot of new members and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll talk about that. But yeah, that's all I've got, Anil. That's all I've got.
All good. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow on Blue Tins and Glasses. Bye-bye.
No more 200 grand, but our new sponsors, The Beautiful Frame, have smashed it with this Jamie Vardy piece. It's unreal. They're a local Leicester business as well, which makes it even better. And not just City, they do prints for other clubs as well. So it's perfect if you are stuck for a birthday or Christmas present for one of your friends or family. Now, the best bit, they have sorted BTG viewers out with a discount. Just use BTG12 at checkout for money off. BTG12. Grab yours now at thebeautifulframe.com. The link is down below.